This section is 5.1, using transformations to graph quadratic functions. You don't need to write the objective down. What we're going to do today is transform quadratic functions and then describe the effects of what the coefficient does. Here is just some key highlights to what a quadratic functions equation is. Remember that f of x just represents the letter y. F of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. The degree is 2. Where you find the degree in the equation is right there at x to the second power. The shape is going to look like a U. We also call it a parabola. The end behavior, what happens to the right and to the left up on the graph, either is going to go all up on both sides or all down on the right sides. And it can be written in 3 forms. In standard form, that's the one in the orange, in factored form, or in vertex form. And we'll talk more specifically in the characteristics of this slide. I'm just giving you some time to write this down. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. The next slide is graphing this function using a table. So substituting values of x in and then graphing those ordered pairs. So think of your first column are your x values, what you're going to plug in, and then your y values, and where the y that you're going to plug into is this equation. So you're going to substitute it in for negative x squared plus 3x minus 2. So I always tend to start with 0 first and then do 1 right and 1 left. So let's go ahead and substitute 0 into the blue equation. So it's going to be negative and then 0 squared plus 3 times 0 minus 2. Well, the first term will be 0, the second term will be 0, and then we're left with negative 2. So when we go out and graph that ordered pair, it's going to be over 0 and then down 2. So there's our first ordered pair. Then let's just pick another value, 1. So we would substitute 1 into the blue equation. And then simplify that. So we have to remember our rules of simplifying using PEMDAS. We're going to do our exponents first. So 1 times 1 is 1. And then we still have a negative 1 out there. And then 3 times 1 is 3. And then minus 2. So negative 3, or negative 1 plus 3 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So now our next ordered pair is going to go over 1 and then up 0. Now let's do negative 1. So we evaluate the function with negative 1. So we substitute negative 1 into the function. Now be careful on this. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. Then you have to go back and multiply it to negative 1. And then 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. And then minus 2. So negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. Negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6. So now when we graph that one, we're going to go to the left 1, and then down 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. So here's our next ordered pair. I say, oh, it kind of looks like a line, but we know the shape is a U, so we have to continue going. So let's go ahead and enter in another value, let's say 2, and then we'll do -2. All right, so we substitute 2 in. So 2 times 2 is 4, with a negative in front is -4. 3 times 2 is 6, and then -2. So -4 plus 6 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So now we graph that one. We're going to go over 2, up 0. Let's not graph -2, and let's see what happens when we get 3. Because something happened where we had 2 little dots, and we know that it has to be the shape of a U. So negative, and then 3 squared plus 3 times 3 minus 2. So 3 times 3 is 9, with a negative in front is now a -9. 3 times 3 is 9, and then minus 2. -9 plus 9 is 0, minus 2. So now we're going to go right 3, down 2. So now we're going to go ahead and graph the shape of the U. We just had a little interruption. That was Mr. Leonard trying to be funny while I'm video recording this lesson, and that's why there was the pause. So these are the ordered pairs. Now, it's not going to be imperative at this point that you know what this top point is. It's somewhere about here. We're not sure. So just go ahead and graph 0, 1, -1, and when you start to see the shape of the U, you would graph it. So this is the first method of graphing. As we move through the chapter, we will not ask you all the time to graph using a table. We're going to teach you some other methods to make this process go much faster than point plotting, where you substitute a value in for x, find y, and then graph it. So there's our first example. All right, this slide is already in your